In the autumn of 1682, the bustling harbour of Portsmouth echoed with the restless clatter of rigging and the low murmur of men bound for the edge of the known world. At the helm stood Captain Alistair Vance, a man whose reputation for navigating treacherous, uncharted currents was matched only by his unyielding iron resolve. As the heavy iron anchors broke free from the seabed, the great oak hull of the Sovereign Gale groaned, turning its prow toward the vast, unforgiving expanse of the Atlantic. The jagged cliffs of the English coastline slowly receded into a shroud of grey mist, marking the final farewell to familiar shores and guaranteed safety. High above the rolling swell, youthful crewmen scrambled up the hemp ratlines, releasing vast tiers of canvas to catch the rising autumnal gale. Below deck in the cramped captain's cabin, illuminated by the flickering glow of a gimbaled oil lamp, parchment maps of unprecedented secrecy were unrolled across the oak table. These were not mere commercial trade routes. They were the disputed annotations of a lost Spanish galleon, hinting at a hidden archipelago rich in uncharted navigational knowledge. Days melted into weeks as the rugged wooden vessel drove deeper into the blue abyss, surrounded by nothing but the endless horizon and wheeling seabirds. Life aboard fell into the unforgiving rhythm of watches, salt spray, and hard biscuits, each sailor tethered to the collective fate of the expedition. Under the blistering equatorial sun, the winds died away entirely, leaving the Sovereign Gale drifting in a mirror-flat expanse of shimmering water. For 7 agonizing days, the sails hung limp like folded banners, testing the patience and morale of every soul imprisoned within the tropical calm. Then, without warning, the oppressive stillness, fractured as a towering wall of dark turquoise storm clouds, materialized on the southern horizon. Captain Vance's voice rang like thunder across the decks, summoning his men to secure the rigging before the tempest struck with lethal fury. The Sovereign Gale plunged headfirst into foaming mountainous troughs, green water crashing over the bow as the wooden timbers shrieked under immense pressure. Bracing against the violent bucking of the deck, Vance clung to the heavy wooden helm, guiding the ship through the teeth of the gale with unwavering focus. By dawn, the howling fury of the storm exhausted itself, leaving behind a rolling, slate-gray sea and a golden sliver of sun piercing the broken clouds. Though the mast stood firm, the crew labored through the morning to mend torn canvas and pump out the flooded bilge water below. In his cabin, Vance consulted his brass sextant and navigational ephemeris, confirming that the storm had blown them far south of any charted trade lane. The water temperature had shifted noticeably, and strange floating kelp, unlike anything recorded in European archives, drifted past the hull. Unease rippled through the forecastle as superstitious sailors murmured of sea monsters and waters lacking the protection of the crown. Stepping onto the quarterdeck, Captain Vance silenced the murmurs with a voice of absolute authority, reminding them of the glory and wealth awaiting discovery. Reassured by their commander's unshakable confidence, the crew returned to their duties, their fears supplanted by the intoxicating allure of the unknown. For 3 more weeks, the Sovereign Gale sailed steadily southward into cooler climes, where the constellations overhead shifted into unfamiliar stellar patterns. Wrapped in a heavy wool cloak against the biting chill, the night watchman scanned the dark horizon, straining his eyes for any sign of land. Just before dawn broke, flocks of heavy-bodied petrels appeared from the southern gloom, an infallible omen that solid earth could not be far away. At first light, the lookout's ecstatic cry pierced the morning air. Land ho! Jagged obsidian peaks rising directly from the churning surf. It was an unmapped archipelago of volcanic islands, wreathed in wreaths of mist and guarded by formidable ring reefs of black basalt. Captain Vance took personal command of the bow, directing the helmsman through a perilous maze of submerged coral and boiling surf. By midday, the Sovereign Gale slipped past the outer barrier into a sheltered, glass-calm Caldera Bay, protected from the ferocious open ocean. The heavy iron anchor plunged into the crystal-clear depths with a mighty splash, sending echoes rolling across the silent, untouched shores. Eager to explore the pristine coastline, Vance ordered the longboat lowered, selecting a trusted handful of officers to accompany him ashore. The muffled, rhythmic dip of wooden oars broke the pristine silence as the small boat glided toward a secluded black sand cove. Captain Vance stepped out of the surf onto the dark volcanic sand, becoming one of the first Europeans to set foot upon this hidden southern realm. Lush emerald jungles blanketed the lower slopes, teeming with exotic ferns and brightly plumed birds that had never witnessed human presence. Pushing inland through the dense thicket, the landing party stumbled upon something astonishing: moss-covered stone pillars carved by an unknown ancient hand. Vance knelt beside a weathered basalt monolith, tracing intricate celestial star charts carved into the stone that matched the mysteries of the Spanish sea log. Behind the monolith lay a recessed chamber sealed with a heavy stone disc, a secure vault designed to preserve ancient maritime secrets. With combined strength, Vance and his officers leveraged heavy timber levers against the stone disc, slowly rolling it aside to reveal the dark interior. Raising a flickering oil lantern, Vance stepped into the cool stone chamber, illuminating rows of metallic cylinders and preserved parchment scrolls. Here lay the master charts of the Southern Hemisphere, detailed maps charting ocean currents, wind patterns, and hidden archipelagos spanning the entire globe. Realizing the monumental significance of their discovery, Vance carefully transferred the fragile scrolls into waterproof leather cylinders. Suddenly, a deep subterranean rumble echoed through the cavern, and the stone floor shuddered beneath their feet as the volcanic island awoke. Clutching the leather cylinders, Vance and his men sprinted back through the jungle trails toward the black sand cove as volcanic ash filled the air. Bursting out onto the black sand beach, they piled into the longboat and shoved off into the surf just as a plume of smoke crowned the central peak. Pulling desperately at the oars, the men raced across the Caldera Bay toward the waiting silhouette of the Sovereign Gale. Hauling themselves up the rope ladders, Vance and his crew scrambled onto the deck as orders were barked to weigh anchor immediately. The windlass spun furiously as the crew hoisted the heavy anchor into the hawsepipe, racing against the rumbling fury of the awakening mountain. Topsails and courses were dropped and sheeted home in record time, catching the offshore thermal wind blowing off the volcanic slopes. The Sovereign Gale surged forward, cutting a clean white wake through the Caldera waters as minor tremors rippled across the bay. With Vance at the helm once more, the vessel threaded the narrow basalt reef passage with breathtaking precision, escaping into the open ocean just in time. Aloft on the quarterdeck, the crew watched in awe as a magnificent plume of steam and ash erupted into the southern sky, marking their miraculous exit. With the precious leather cylinders safely secured in the captain's quarters, Vance turned the ship's wheel northward, setting course for Europe. Weeks of steady northward sailing followed, propelled by favorable trade winds that seemed almost to honor the extraordinary cargo resting below. During quiet evening watches, Vance studied the recovered master charts by lamplight, realizing their knowledge would rewrite every map in the civilized world. The atmosphere among the crew had transformed completely. Tales of hardship were replaced by proud boasts of the legendary lands they had unlocked. As the weeks rolled by, the familiar warmth of northern temperate currents embraced the hull, signaling that their epic odyssey was nearing its conclusion. On a crisp morning in early spring, the familiar rocky headlands of the English Channel hove into view, welcoming the weary travelers home. With proud colors flying from the masthead, the Sovereign Gale glided back into Portsmouth harbor, her weathered hull a testament to extraordinary deeds. Astonished dockworkers and townsfolk crowded the stone quays, cheering wildly as the legendary vessel dropped anchor in its home berth. Flawlessly attired in his ceremonial naval coat, Captain Alistair Vance walked down the gangplank, carrying the sacred leather cylinders of the Obsidian Reach. Brought before the Admiralty and Royal Cartographers, Vance unrolled the master charts upon a grand mahogany table, silencing every skeptic in the hall. The intricate coastlines, unknown islands, and precise southern currents instantly rendered existing world maps obsolete, herpering a new era of global enlightenment. For his unmatched courage and monumental contribution to geography, Captain Alistair Vance received the highest maritime honors of the realm. The voyage of the Sovereign Gale became an immortal legend among mariners, inspiring generations of explorers to look beyond the edge of the horizon. Though centuries have passed since those wooden hulls braved the southern abyss, the eternal human urge to discover remains unbroken. Every map we read today was forged by the blood, sweat, and unrelenting curiosity of those who dared to sail into the dark unknown. For as long as stars guide ships across midnight seas, the age of exploration lives on in the beating heart of every seeker of truth. Thus concludes the Chronicle of the Sovereign Gale, a testament to human daring and the eternal journey toward the edge of the world.